this is Rachel again. Just going to give you my take on the Australian Royal Commission hearing of Case Study 54, which was the Jehovah's Witnesses. And this was held on the 10th of March in Australia. And it was a follow-up to the 2015 hearing where over 8 gruelling days the organisation had to testify before the Royal Commission. And then the Royal Commission produced findings and a report they published and released last year. They wrote about all the problems that they found with the practices and policies of Jehovah's Witnesses in Australia. And so at this recent hearing, they wanted to hear what the organisation or the Australia branch had done about rectifying some of the problems that they identified. So there were only 2 representatives from the branch testifying. We had Rodney Spinks from the service desk at the branch and Terence O'Brien, who at the time of the 2015 hearing, he was the coordinator of the branch committee, but he did say this time round that he was on a temporary assignment in Papua New Guinea doing something entirely different. So why they didn't have the current coordinator of the branch committee at the hearing this time round, who would be more in the loop, you would think, why they didn't have him there, I have no idea. So Terence O'Brien came back from Papua New Guinea to Australia just to be present for this hearing. And there was also no representation of the legal department. At the last hearing we had, I think his name was Vincent Toole from the legal department at the branch testifying, and came across as completely inept. Like he wasn't advising the organisation correctly on whether they had to report allegations of child sexual abuse or not. So there was no representation of the legal department there, even though they talked a lot, non-stop, about the legal department. So it would have made sense to have someone there. So we just had these 2 brothers, and yes, they weren't terribly direct in answering questions, and they almost seemed a bit, because the 2-witness rule was an absolute no-go area that they wouldn't even discuss really, because that's a matter for the governing body. They seemed a little bit apologetic almost, like when they were talking about shunning, like if an abuse victim decided they wanted to officially remove themselves from the organisation through disassociating, by doing that they would be shunned. And Angus Stewart, the lead counsel for the commission, what did he say? He, and along with Justice Peter McCallum, said that it was a very cruel thing to do, if a victim wanted to disassociate because of the way their abuse had been handled, and then they would be shunned by all their support system and everything. Well, they had to agree, the brothers, that that's a very hard decision to make. But then O'Brien, he said that when a person qualifies for baptism at the age, like near adulthood or adult is when they qualify for baptism. So being of an mature mind, they would understand what the implications would be of disassociating, that they would be shunned. So he was sort of blaming the victim there, that if an abuse victim disassociated and found themselves being shunned, then it's their fault because they knew that that's what would happen. They were adult or near adult when they were baptised, so they would understand that would be the case, that they would be shunned. So pretty disgusting. I noticed while he was saying that Rodney Spinks actually took a sip from his water bottle and then turned away and coughed, like like he was trying not to hear the lie, because it's an outright lie, and there's no hiding the fact that that was a lie. I mean, I think everyone in that room would have known that that was a lie, that you only qualify for baptism as you approach adulthood. When the March JW broadcast, that screening, witnesses are watching right now, features child baptism, and Stephen Lett of the governing body commending a 10-year-old boy for being baptised, and they were stressing don't hold off getting baptised. So I don't know where Terence O'Brien, why he said this, because I think any witnesses watching the hearing would ring alarm bells. I'd think, well, why is he lying under oath? He lied under oath on the Bible, and then he lied. So that's pretty shocking. Anyway, so basically, when it was put to these brothers from the branch, what had been done, if any of the recommendations had been followed up, they did talk about, and they had submitted a couple of documents. One was a letter to the body of elders in August 2016, which clarified a couple of matters. I think, the main thing being that a victim of child abuse did not have to face their abuser and make an accusation in front of them. So that can now be done by letter or by some other means. So they sort of made that a little clearer, I think, and in the documentation. Although Angus Stewart did bring out that there were like some documents were updated, but other instructions, like to the instructions to the service desks, weren't necessarily updated in line with others. So there's, the branch still hasn't got all its documentation in line, and there's just far too much documentation, a bit here and a bit there, and this magazine from way back, decades ago, and it's really absolutely ridiculous. So on a positive note though, they did talk about a third document that they just pulled out of their hat just in the days before the hearing, and that was a public child safeguarding document that they proposed to make available to all congregants in Australia, I guess. But whether they will or not, I don't know. And they're a little bit deceptive on this matter too, because they did bring out that it was sort of modelled on the UK safeguarding policy that they have there, that's available to the public and members, which that came out in 2013. That's a few years ago now. So basically most of the work had been done in producing this document, yet the Royal Commission asked if this policy had been, distributed yet in Australia, and the brothers said, well, no, they were waiting for the hearing to see if there were any last minute changes or edits, anything they had to put in it before they would make it available. So they made it sound like it was going to be available within a few days, but whether that's happened, I don't know. It's just another way they can stall things again. When they were talking about the UK policy, was it brother? I'm not sure which one of them it was that said that it was in development or something along those lines. And I thought, no. That policy has been available in the UK since 2013, I believe. So it's nothing in development at all. So they're just sort of like trying to stall things. And then I actually have a copy. If you go to Watchtower Documents, that's Barbara Anderson's website, you can get a copy of the UK Child Safeguarding Policy. And I've only just printed off the 6 pages of the policy, and not all the, because there's, I don't know, dozens of extra pages with all the Watchtower articles, and things going back decades and decades they've actually got scans or prints of those articles that they attach to the policy when they give it to people. As if people want to read through, like, I don't know, 70 pages of, I can't remember how many pages it was, but rather a lot. But I noticed on point 22, here, see what it says there? This policy will be made available upon request to members of congregation. The members of the congregation. Yeah. But how can they request it if they don't know it exists? Because a few years ago, Louise Good over in the UK did a series of videos about this document where she rang up the UK branch to request the document, and they were not very forthcoming at all, and she wanted to know who the child safeguarding officer was, and they were very, all over the place, not really giving her any information. And anyway, in time, she actually got a visit from a couple of elders who had been sent by the UK branch. This was after she'd made a request by phone and in writing, three requests she'd made for this child safeguarding document, and she had not received it. And anyway, she got a visit from these two elders who said they'd been sent by the branch, and they had been told that a sister needed their help. And how could they help her? And she said, well, you can help me by giving me the child safeguarding policy. And they looked at each other. I thought, what? They'd never heard of a child safeguarding policy. So, okay, if the elders don't even know it's available, how's the general rank and file member of the congregation going to know that there is one? So Louise actually printed some of these policies off and took them to congregations and gave them to elders who had no clue about their existence. So I wonder if it's going to be the same sort of thing in Australia. Are elders going to know that this policy is available? If they don't even know about it, how are the brothers and sisters going to request it? So I think they should have this policy actually pinned to the notice board at the back of the hall, and perhaps even spend, once a year, just like they go over the blood card thing, once a year, they should go over this. They should discuss it at their clam meeting, and make sure everybody knows what the policy is. And even though this policy is sort of, the public one, this one, is sort of, it makes the processes actually sound better and more reasonable than they actually really are in reality, because the elders won't be following this when it comes to dealing with allegations of sexual abuse. They will be following the letters and the Sheep of the Flock of God book instructions. That's what they'll be following, and it's more detailed. This is sort of sanitized to make it sound better for the members and for the public who inquire. However, what I do like about this is that it makes it clear that the responsibility for protecting children from sexual abuse rests with the parents. And a lot of the Watchtower articles that are referenced in this show that as well. So at least they will know that don't expect the elders to protect your children. You have to make sure that you protect your children. Also, it talks about reporting to the police, that it's your right as a victim or a guardian parent of a victim to report to the police. So there won't, if it's in the writing in here, there won't be any guilt associated with, oh dear, I don't want to report it because it's going to make Jehovah's organisation sound so bad, and it's going to bring reproach on his name, and the guilt will go because it's in writing here that they can report. Whereas if you didn't have this, the way the elders handle, if an allegation is made to them, is they report to the branch, to the legal department, to find out what the legal obligations of reporting are. and if there is no legal obligation, they are very unlikely to report it. In fact, practice has shown that they don't, although they argue that. So, I've lost my train of thought a bit. So it would be good if parents could actually see the Sheep of the Flock of God book, but they're not going to. It's a secret elders manual. But yeah, so there are some positive things here. Still, making something like this available to the members is better than nothing, and at least it puts the matter in their minds that, hey, this is a problem that occurs all through society, and it occurs in the Kingdom Hall as well. And even though the organisation tries to wriggle out of accountability by in saying that certain laws don't apply to them because they don't have like a children's what do they call it? Sunday school. They don't have like a Sunday school teacher with a group of children. They don't have activities that are just for children. But of course we know that children go out in the field ministry with other adults, especially if they're from a large family. You don't want a whole family of 8 traipsing door to door. Some of the children will be assigned to other witnesses to work with them. So there's a whole lot of opportunities where children will be alone with another adult. And of course we know that kids are encouraged to widen out in their associations in the congregation, and that friends don't have to just be their own age. Their friends can be the elderly ones in the congregation or anyone. So they're encouraged to form friendships with others in the congregation who are not their parents, and they won't always be under the eye of their parents. So if parents know that the responsibility falls upon them to protect their children, then they would be not allowing their children to spend time alone with another witness, an adult witness in the congregation. I think the brothers would have to tighten up the way they arrange their field service, not assigning children with someone who's not in their family. They would really have to, if they really care about protecting children, I think they're going to have to do that. Anyway, I think that's, sorry about all the ums and ahs, and I'm getting old. But do go to Watchtower Documents and get a copy of this child safeguarding policy. This is the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland. So I imagine the Australian one will be pretty much identical, so I'm waiting for that to be available. And I may actually ring up the branch and ask whether this will be available to New Zealand, even though, New Zealand comes under the Australia branch, although, they might say, well, a different legal system, but it's probably pretty much the same. And I think every country should have a document like this for members. I really think they should. And you can't expect brothers and sisters to go looking back at all this list of different magazines and stuff going back to like 1983, I think is the oldest one here. Traipsing, combing through all these lengthy articles, trying to find out what the policy is for handling sexual abuse in the congregation. It won't tell you in any of these. These are all just very general things about child sexual abuse and helping victims in a very generalised way. It's nothing to do with the policy of the organisation. So that is what's been missing for all these decades. And why should the policies be secret? This is what Angus Stewart asked these brothers on the stand. Why is there so much secrecy around procedural documents. It's not like there's personal information or anything in there. They're procedures. Why aren't the brothers and sisters allowed to know about the procedures? It's probably because they know that a lot of brothers and sisters would find the procedures unreasonable, especially in this day and age. So that's my thoughts anyway. But yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few other things that were brought out in the hearing that I would like to comment on, but my brain's just not working very well today, so I'll leave it there. So leave any comments below if you've got any interesting things you want to bring up about the hearing, and I'll say goodbye. Bye.